Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Can't Stop Talking podcast. I have a very special guest today. It's actually my client, Baylee. I'm so happy that you're on the podcast. Thank you for coming. I would love if you would just introduce yourself to my audience. I can't wait for them to meet you.
Of course. Thank you so much, Sam. And I'm so excited to be here. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Baylee. I actually am a little bit unique that I own two businesses. So I am a health coach, but I also am a business coach, and I started doing that this year. So for women specifically, helping them heal their hormones, and on the business end, specifically helping women hit 5K months while enjoying the fuck out of their business.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And she is incredible. She does just that. So tell us, how did you really get here? Like from the beginning, how did you first start your health coaching business and then really go into the coaching side, having these two businesses?
Yes. So when I was in college, actually, so we'll rewind a few years. I can't do math right now and tell you how many years ago that was. I think it was like 3 years ago. I was going to school for kinesiology, health and fitness. I thought I was just going to be a personal trainer. The only growth I could really grow financially was to go to be a gym manager at a high-end gym. And even then I was only making like $50,000, $60,000 a year, which, don't get me wrong, that's a fine amount of money to make, but I really wanted to be able to grow and do much more than that. So when I graduated college, I was a personal trainer, and I just felt really stuck that I had an income cap. I was working these crazy split shifts. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m., which no human enjoys waking up at that time. I don't care how early of a morning person you are. And it totally got rid of my mornings, which I love my mornings. So I was working all morning into the afternoon, would have a little break, and then I would come back at the gym and take clients at nighttime. So I felt like I was working all the time, and I wasn't really making that much money with my college degree. And I actually had to take a part-time job bartending on the weekends because just of that financial component. Like I felt like I just wasn't making enough to support my lifestyle. So I thought like there must be some kind of way to do this on my own and take clients online. And I actually have a Snapchat memory of me typing into YouTube how to leave your 9-to-5 job, which is funny because my job wasn't like a traditional 9-to-5, but it's just funny. I have like a memory of that on my phone. And I actually started off having a blog, and it was a health and fitness blog. And then I came to realize I don't really like sitting down and writing that much stuff down. It took a lot of time, and I just thought it would take a long time to scale. So then I started taking some personal training clients on the side, and that went really, really well. And so this is now about 2 years ago. And then I was kind of like, fuck it, I'm just going to have an online fitness coaching business. I think I binged like probably hundreds of podcasts, YouTube videos, things on Instagram. I did not have a coach, although I wish I would have had a coach. I did not have a coach even when I went full time. So I scaled to full time before I even had a coach in probably like 4-ish months. And then I bit the bullet. I quit my personal training job, health coached full time, niche down to women's hormones. And then that was so successful, I started my business coaching business in January of this year.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And what really made you be like, okay, I did this first business, I'm ready to add a second business on? Because I think that's so inspiring.
Well, thank you. I think as entrepreneurs, I'm sure you can relate that we're so multifaceted.
Yes.
And I really liked the business side of things. And I just am so passionate. I know people use the words like breaking out of the matrix, breaking out of the whatever the hell you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. I just am so passionate about helping other people live a similar lifestyle to me. I love being able to work from home, take off when I want to take off. And actually, a big inspiration too was when I started my business, I had a lot of health issues, and I felt so guilty taking off from my 9-to-5 job. So just being really passionate of being able to like have the freedom you want to have and make as much money as you want, no income cap, making the biggest impact you can make. So I really wanted to help other women do that through business coaching, but I didn't want to get rid of my health coaching business because I love that, love my clients.
Yes.
I still feel very aligned to that. And I actually remember I asked one of my old business coaches for advice, and she told me to do one or the other. She said, do one or the other. It's going to be too stressful doing both at once. You're not going to be successful in both of them because you're going to be splitting your energy. And my intuition told me like, no, I want to do both of them still. And I did. So I guess that's what inspired me.
Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. And I'm really into this season. I always am, I always tell my clients, really trust your gut. Like your coach cannot override what your gut is telling you. So if you're being like, I can have these two businesses, I can have it all. And look at you today. You're literally running these two businesses. And what I really want to talk about is the fact that you run both these businesses and you have so much freedom. You will literally put in the mastermind chat, like, it is 12 o'clock and I finished everything I needed to do for both businesses today. So how have you been able, what's your approach to, running two successful businesses and having all this free time?
Yes. So you've actually helped me so much with this because I think we're very similar in having things be very simple. And I don't like to overcomplicate things. So for example, there are like three main things I do every single day in both businesses. And it's the acronym CSE. So content, sell, and expand. So in my agenda, I literally write under both businesses, CSE. I check them out for the day. And I give myself I think a lot of people don't give themselves like strict enough boundaries when it comes to when they're working and when they're not. And although I made my business to escape my 9 to 5, I find that I still sometimes work from 9 to 5, but most days I have a cap from like 10 to about 2 p.m. If I tell myself I'm starting working at 10, I'm going to be done by 2, I will get done usually what I need to get done by 2. But if you don't give yourself some kind of like timing constraints, I feel like we tend to just dilly-dally and like spread that out over so much more
Yes.
time. So it's really just having like strict time boundaries with myself. And then also keeping things very, very simple. Like I'll use the same, let's say I make a carousel for my health coaching business. I'll copy it in Canva. I'll change the colors and I'll use the same exact template for my business coaching business. I'll do the same thing with reels, same thing when I sell my stories, same thing with emails. Like I keep everything very, very easy, which I know you're also a big fan of.
I love it. And that's the thing. I feel like people are always like, what more can I do? But that acronym is perfect. Like once you get that done for the day, you can feel good, and anything on top of that is really a bonus. So do you think you always had this kind of, mindset going into business, or was this something that you had to learn that it gets to be easy? You get to, enjoy the freedom and have this amazing life that people are painting on social media?
Definitely something I had to learn. And I'm sure, just from me being your client, it's something that I still struggle with, which I'll be very honest about, because I think not enough people are honest about the things they struggle with in their own business, especially as a business coach. But the first year I was in my business, I felt like I had to work so hard to make like $2,000-$3,000 a month. And during this time, like I just went through a bad breakup, moved to a new city. And I mean, I had to solely rely on just my own income to survive. And I felt like I was very much in that hustle culture, although I wasn't really doing anything. Like I wasn't doing the
Mm.
actions that were actually going to move my business forward, that were actually going to make me money. And instead I would sit all day thinking about my business, which I counted as like working on my business. I'd spend all day worrying about my business, which I counted as like working on my business. And I didn't actually know the specific like things like, okay, if I do this, this is going to make me sales. This is going to get me clients. I really felt like I was throwing spaghetti at a wall. And it wasn't until I started just like working with more higher ticket business coaches, honestly, who taught me the more simple way of doing things. I feel like this mindset really shift for me like early last fall. So like September of 2022. But even working
Yeah.
with you, I know you're the queen of simplicity, and you've really helped me with this mindset as well. And there still are weeks where I may not even be stressed about my business. I might just be stressed in my like just life for no reason. Like yesterday was a really good example. Like just like stress for no reason. It's not even necessarily my business. And sometimes I'll have thoughts coming in my brain of, oh, like, is this too much work? Like, is running too much, like two businesses, too much work for you?
Yeah.
But it's really just I'm stressed out in my real life, not my day-to-day life. And it's really helpful then having a coach to plug into to remind me that things can be simple, that everything's okay. So don't even remember what your actual original question was, but yes, it was learned.
Yes, the easy habits. I love that, because I feel like where we've seen in the industry is either it's too airy fairy and people are like, you barely have to work to make, a certain amount of money. And then there's this very like masculine hustle culture. And what you do very well is the medium, which what I've seen as my client, the reason that you excel, you are the perfect type of client. I tell you to do something, it is done literally before you end the voice note. Like I'm still on the call and you're like done, made that post, did that thing. And so what I see that you do very well that, you can give my audience some advice on is how to be that client who really gets results. Because what I see with you is you go into action and you do the things that are needed, and implement right away. And then, like you said, you also have that free time because you take action and you're not just dilly-dallying.
Yes. So a few different things come to my mind when you say that. First is working smarter, not harder. So in that time frame, for example, I give you like the 10 to 2. Like I'm more in my masculine, I'm very driven, but I'm working smarter, not harder. I'm doing like just the actions it takes to move the ball forward. But then that's where like the more feminine, airy fairy side comes in. Before 10 a.m., after 2 p.m., that's when I fill up my own cup. So that's how I have found that really good balance. But I feel like I've always been a person who's taken messy action. I think a lot of people who are in that very perfectionist mindset, so let's say you tell them to post something, like they'll think on it for a few days, maybe 4 days later, they'll actually post it. And in my mind, I just have learned to view things as like they can be easy and fun if I want them to, and I can take messy action. Yes. And I always say, even to like my own clients, and I just made a podcast about this, but nobody cares if your stuff is perfect besides yourself. No, I know you talk a lot on spelling mistakes. Like no one, like probably not a lot of people honestly even catch those. I barely even ever see them. Yeah. People probably do more because you say you make spelling mistakes, but people don't care if your content or whatever is perfect besides yourself. So I just know that what you tell me to do, like I know if I do it right now, it will get the ball rolling, and that will equal sales. That will equal me making more money. That will equal me having more freedom and building my business empire. So for me, it's like, why wouldn't I do the thing that you tell me to do and it doesn't have to be hard? And even just like positively brainwashing yourself, even with things that you think may be hard, into being easy. Because when you tell yourself like, oh, yes, making a post is going to be hard, that automatically makes you resistant and not wanting to do that thing. But if you brainwash yourself into thinking that it's going to be the most easiest, funnest, quickest thing you've ever done, that's going to get you lots of sales, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to want to do it right away, of course, because I want the sales and I want to continue to help people and grow my business.
Absolutely. Because our mind is a robot. So whatever you tell it, it's going to listen. And that's what the action it's going to take. I freaking love that. And something you also do so freaking well that makes you, this amazing business owner, it's going to take you to your empire, is you move. So regardless of what's happening in your reality, if you're not feeling good that day, if maybe you don't get the sale that you want that day, you keep moving. And because you keep moving, it all catches up with you. So you had an incredible week last week and made thousands of dollars. And you said something that everyone needs to hear. You said, this was the work. It was catching up from me from 3 months ago, because you've been putting in this hard work for 3 months. And the other thing you said was, you were really working heavy on your mindset and your affirmation. So what do you think really brought this, amazing week in for you? And I want to hear your kind of philosophy on this, like 3 months of hard work paying off.
Yes. So I cannot coin that to myself. One of my good friends actually, who works in a sales department for a business, I was probably, I don't want to use the word complaining, but I was complaining to her, I don't know how long ago, but just that like, I was frustrated because I felt like I was being very consistent and I wasn't reaping the benefits of my consistency. And she was like, well, Baylee, like in the sales world, you usually don't reap the benefits till 3 months later. And that really is so true. Like when I look at the months that maybe I didn't put in the work, wasn't consistent, 3 months after that, I wasn't really making a lot of sales. But I've looked at the months I put in a lot of work. Maybe that wasn't my highest paying month, the month I put in the most work or consistency, but 2 or 3 months later is when I had a really good paying month. And maybe it seemed like it even came out of nowhere, although it was from the hard work I put in 3 months prior. So that was kind of like a huge mindset shift that my friend helped me see. But it is so true. If you're posting consistently, selling consistently, it takes, I don't know the exact number, but I think it takes someone like 15 times of you selling for them to want to buy. Yeah. That might be 3 months later, especially if you're not selling every day. That might be a long time later. Or if you get someone, let's say you make a really good post, you get some new followers. It's probably not going to be that month they buy. Maybe, because I've definitely had instances where someone's followed me and bought right away, but most likely you'll nurture them. And then 3 months later, they're going to buy. So that was a really good thing for me to remember, but also with the mindset and affirmations. And you're so good at reminding me this because I know this, I love manifestation, but I think sometimes you just need someone else to remind you and give you like a loving slap on the face to not forget to do affirmations and mindset work. And I think since I'm so into health and fitness, I see it the same way. So you say this all the time too, but let's say you're trying to lose 10 pounds and you're working out every day, or not every day, that's not healthy. You're working out a few times a week for 4 weeks and you lose a little bit of weight and you're like, yay. And then you stop and then you get confused of why you don't, maybe your weight went up, you don't feel as healthy. Similar to that mindset wise, like you have to be consistent with it. And sometimes you just need someone to remind you of that. But that was also a huge part, was just getting back on my mindset affirmation game.
I love that. And what's your manifestation routine?
So there's a few different things I do. Every morning, I always try to do a gratitude meditation. So I really think gratitude is such a strong part of getting in those feel-good feelings to manifest. So I don't script every day, but I will script, especially on the days I maybe am having a not as good day. I love a good hot girl walk, or like you call them, like manifestation walk. Love doing that, especially like I'll go with my boyfriend and I'll tell him, because he'll be a little confused, but I'll tell him I'm going to be delusional for 5 minutes. And then I'll like tell him everything like in future tense that I want. And that's also something that I really like to do. But I would say gratitude and visualization meditations. And for me, affirmations, yes, listening to them is great. I do use the app you have recommended, Parrot.
Yes.
To say all my stuff out. But for me, writing them down is the most powerful. So like hearing them, reciting them, great. But for me personally, I found that physically writing them down is the most powerful in my life.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that's perfect, because that's exactly what you have to do. You have to find out what makes you feel the feelings of, your manifestation the most. And for you, if it's not listening to it and it's writing down, that is perfect. That's how it's going to manifest. I love that. And so speaking of manifestation, I actually manifested you into the mastermind. I love this story because you were 100% when I thought of my mastermind and an ideal client, you were exactly who I wanted. And I was stalking you for a while. And I actually, in my head, I pictured my ideal client, who was you, going and paying for the mastermind and then going up to their partner or their friend or their family and saying, oh my gosh, I just joined this mastermind and I'm so excited. So I'd love to hear from your point of view, why you joined the mastermind, and, did you have fears before investing, how it kind of happened? And then we'll explain how this manifestation came to fruition.
Yes. And I love this story too, because you couldn't be more exact with what you manifested happened 100%. And I'm not just like saying that to make you happy. Like it's the truth of what happened. So at the time before I was in the mastermind, I stopped working with a previous coach. No shame to her, but I just wanted someone who I felt like I connected with a deeper level, like mindset and lifestyle wise. I really liked that you were very much into energetics, manifestation, not like, yes, working hard, but not super hustle culture. And I also like just how authentic you were with like sharing your lifestyle and drinking and partying. And like, I love the authenticity of you, but I was in between. So I didn't have a coach. I needed a new coach, but I wasn't like actively coach shopping. And you and I actually were in the same coaching container that the other coach had. And I think that's what got me to follow you. I don't know. I just feel like you gave off like big sister vibes, and I just really liked your energy. So that's what made me follow you. And I think I really tried to I know you asked me this question. I was trying to think on like what it was specifically. I really think I was just scrolling through my stories and it just popped up, and something you said just must have really stuck out to me. I mean, I know a lot with the mastermind, the last time you sold the mastermind, it was really like getting in the game, playing big. And I think that's just what I really needed in my business, was to just really explode my business in the best way possible. And I really think I saw one story and I pretty much was in. I remember I messaged you about it. We talked a little bit in the DMs, but I think it was like the same exact day. I think this happened within like a span. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it happened in a span of like a few hours. I didn't ask anyone. Usually all my past investments, I felt a little bit for sure scared. It maybe took me a few weeks to like actually buy. Like the link would sit I'd be that person. The link would
Yeah.
sit in my Instagram DMs for like a week or two. And then I'd have to like work up the courage to like actually pay. But I just felt so aligned to you. And I knew you could help me. Like your business is like where I want to be a few steps from now. That it was just so easy. And it was a painful easy. And for people listening, it's not like I just had that $5,000 sitting around in my closet. I actually put that on my credit card, which I think a lot of people are scared to do, although they'll spend thousands of dollars on college and not do anything with their degree.
Yes.
Besides the point, because I mean, I did that too, but besides the point, I mean, I even put it on my credit card and I knew, because I have a belief in my mind, when I invest, I'm going to get that investment back within the month. So I paid that off within the month, made my money's worth back. And it was the best decision I ever made. I did go up to my boyfriend and I was like, oh my gosh, I did this today. Here's her Instagram. I'm so excited to work with her. And he is nothing but supportive. So I knew that wasn't going to be any kind of problem, but happened exactly how you manifested it, which is crazy.
It was so crazy too. And I remember the exact post I had. I was sitting outside on a Saturday and I was drinking a White Claw out of a wine glass in my bathing suit. And I put up a story that was like my client's testimonials. Someone, had a good sale day. I put it up and I said, if you want this ease, and you were like, I want this ease. And the rest was history. And the craziest part is, after you became my client, I told you how I manifested in clients, how I manifested you in. And that's when you were like, that's exactly what happened. And the cutest part about all that I love is I actually had one of my past mastermind clients message you, because you said you hadn't asked anyone, how my coaching was. And she was like, I'm so happy you signed up with Sam. And I was like, that is the cutest thing ever. So I love that so much. You are still my soulmate client. So I'm just loving working with you. So where do you think you were before the mastermind, and where do you think you kind of are now? And I know things take time, but I would love to hear your journey.
Of course. So before the mastermind, my biggest problems, I guess, was I was very confused on my product suite. I felt like I was having like a lot of like high month cash injection months. And then I'd be like, next month, well, fuck, like not, if I didn't get like paid in full clients, I felt like the consistency wasn't as much there. So one was and I was changing my product suite all the time. I never was a course person, but like I would constantly change like my one-on-one offer, my group offer. I would have a membership. I wouldn't have a membership. I felt unaligned. So before had an unaligned product suite. I was worried that both my businesses would be stressful, that it would be a lot more work. And I did not want to work a lot more. That was another big, I guess, worry. Also before, just feeling like I didn't have a mentor at the time. So feeling a little bit more lonely, or not having the reassurance that the things I was doing was actually going to get the ball rolling. And yeah, I would say those are the main three. Product suite, didn't have a product suite that was aligned. The ease wasn't all there. Things didn't always seem easy. I definitely did not have as many regular sales because of the product suite that we've now implemented, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second after. But I felt like my sales weren't all there. Like they'd be very random. I made a list. I'm just looking and seeing if there's anything else.
No, I love this.
I had more anxiety as well, just with the fact of like, I didn't have as much of regular sales and I was just more confused. So that's where I was beforehand.
I love that so much. And I feel like too, like a lot of people, and myself included, even as a client, we feel like we have to go out and do so much more. Like we have to revamp everything. And really, when we took your product suite, we kind of just simplified it and made it to like where you want it to be. And I think that going into a mentorship, it just feels like such a big deal. But what I wanted you to see is you're perfect as you are. You're doing everything right. Let's turn it up a notch. And then when we did, the sales really started flowing in. So how do you feel about your product suite now? And what would you suggest to people who are, feeling a little uneasy about theirs?
So I feel really good about my product suite now. I feel like it makes a lot of sense. Everything like so I won't go through all of it, but like my lowest ticket goes into my middle perfectly, goes into my higher ticket perfectly. I feel very aligned. Like I won't burn any of them down anytime soon. They'll stay pretty stable in my business. And I guess like advice I would give to someone else with their product suite. I mean, I don't know if I have one good piece of advice, but really just the simplicity. I mean, I think it's smart to have a low, middle, high ticket tier that you really, really love each of them. So you're not changing them all the time. to really also hit each like income group, I guess you could say,
Yes.
in your following. Cause I do think I was sleeping on a lot of people who maybe couldn't afford my higher ticket, but they can afford my lower ticket. And that those are sales sales I weren't getting, especially not as regularly or reoccurring. So I'd say simplicity, not overcomplicating it, and really having a nice, easy flow from low ticket, middle ticket, high ticket. So I feel very, very good about mine now.
I love that. And I love something that's a little different is that you really came to me and you were like, I want to keep my prices really like affordable for my clients. And you did that, and you're still making sales, and you're, raising your income by keeping your prices the same. And I think a lot of the times we just want to raise our prices, but you have kind of a different mindset on that, if you'd like to elaborate.
Yes, I love that you brought this up.
Yes.
So a piece of advice I don't like in the coaching world, if it's, I feel like it's very blanket advice, is just raise your prices. You want to make more money? Well, you need to raise your prices. And they may not even know what you're charging. And I do think
Mm,
you get new coaches. Let's say you're a mindset coach and right away you're like, okay, $3,000 for 3 months because that coach told me to raise my prices. But this might sound kind of mean since you're new. I'm not saying that you don't, but like you like is what you're selling like at the moment, since you're new, worth $3,000. If you don't think
mm,
so, you're not going to have the confidence to sell it. And I think too, for me, it needs to feel quite aligned. And some past coaches I worked with would tell me to like increase it by $2,000. And for me, it just felt so disaligned that I had a hard
yes.
time selling it, and almost would feel like guilty selling it. And they'd be like, well, you just need to work on your money mindset. But for me, like it needs to intuitively feel aligned. I think you definitely need both. But I do think you get a lot of new coaches who come in right away. They're told blanket advice to just raise their prices. They don't feel confident about the prices they're charging. They aren't behind their service, maybe because it's new, maybe because they haven't even had anyone get results from it yet. So they're charging these higher prices and they're feeling very disaligned with it. They're wondering why they're not making sales. So for me, just feeling very aligned with my prices is important to me. And I think that's why I have been quite successful with getting clients quite often, is because I'm so aligned to my prices. And I'm sure they will like evolve and raise in the future. But I do think you need to feel very, very good with it. And that can,
Yes.
like, I know you had me make a confidence list, which was super, super helpful for me getting behind my services and offers. But I just think the blanket advice of just raise your prices is kind of shitty.
Yes. And something that I absolutely loved when were in my DMs asking about the mastermind is you were like, yes, I want to make this certain income. But for me, this mastermind is actually about, I want to be able to run these two businesses and feel like I have free time. Like I remember you saying that you were like, I want it to feel like it's easier and, my product suite feels better. And I think that is such a key to success. And we've talked about this, me and you, of like, all these coaches are saying, get to 30, 40, 50K months, which are great. But if you're not happy with, how your lifestyle looks when you're making 5, 10K months, then you're not going to be happy when you're adding all this stuff onto your plate and you're making 50K months. So I think that is huge. And this is what shows me that you are going to go the distance and you're going to have the lifestyle to like reap the benefits of it as well. So I
Yes,
love
that
that.
is so important. That's something you've helped me with. Something I remember you said to me was like, let's say I had a win and I made a certain amount of money a week or a month. You're like, well, like, what did you do to get there? And how did you feel about it? Like, did you actually enjoy doing it? Because when I started my business, the first coach I worked with, she was specifically like a business coach for fitness coaches. She was a lot more masculine in the way she ran things. She was very into cold DMs, lead generation, me messaging 30 people a day and keeping track of every single lead. And that works for some people, but I hated doing it. I mean, I did like when I was working with her, like I did make sales, like I did increase my income, but I hated it. It gave me anxiety. It felt really gross and icky. And I think it's so important to trust the process, because so like, let's say you're making, like you hit that $20,000 a month or 10K a month, but you fucking hated the last month of your life. Like you never
Yes.
had free time, never got to hang out with people, felt super gross in the way you were selling, felt really overwhelmed and stressed. I mean, that's not going to be maintainable for you to hold, but also you just recreated your 9 to 5, but made it worse, kind of like, what is the money even worth at that point?
Absolutely. And we would have just stayed at our 9 to 5 if we wanted to, go up the corporate ladder and make that amount of money. I love it. And you are just actually a walking representation of everything you said. I want my audience to know that, because the other day, Bailey literally wrote in the group chat, she was like, I have so much free time that I'm going to start making candles. And I was like, that is it. Like, you're running two businesses and now you're like, well, let me add another side hustle. This is the dream life. This is entrepreneurship. This is really that freedom. So I absolutely love that. Before we end, I just want to ask you, do you have any, advice or your number one tip for anyone who wants to run a business or is currently running a business? I love to hear any juicy tips that you have.
Yes. So this is going to be actually, I feel like maybe not unexpected, but kind of random. And I actually wrote this down when I was thinking of advice. Something I see missing in so many people who have Instagram businesses is that they do not utilize TikTok. I cannot tell you the amount of clients who have found me on TikTok, came to my Instagram and bought from me. It's more than half my clients. And I mean, it will be the day of. So many sales come from my TikTok. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to go on TikTok. But I mean, like, get over it. Like, it's not, I'm going to be mean about it. It's not any harder honestly, having a TikTok is so easy. I grew over 10,000 followers in less than 3 months. And all I did was repost my Instagram content to my TikTok. It takes 0.2 seconds to put it on TikTok. And I've gotten so many clients and sales from people on TikTok. I think maybe this is a limiting belief, but I think growing on TikTok is a lot easier. And I think it's easier to do lives on TikTok. It's just easier to be more you can have longer videos, and I don't know, it's just easier to show up, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people are not using TikTok to their full potential and send them over to their Instagram to make sales. So that'd be my biggest piece of advice.
We are so aligned today because I wanted to ask you about your TikTok and I didn't really know how to bring it up. This is amazing. So do you have any advice on growing on TikTok for repurposing as well? How do you repurpose your reels? I know everyone does it a little differently. How do you bring them over? And what you do so well on TikTok is you use your carousels on TikTok.
Yes. I do. So a few different little tips and tricks that I've learned. So on TikTok, they are really valuing more longer videos. So let's say I make, what is that called? A B-roll. Let's say, I know on Reels right now, what's really popular is shorter, B-roll videos that are 4 seconds long. Those aren't doing as amazing on TikTok. So what I usually do, at least in my opinion, but just take that with a grain of salt, but that's in my opinion. So what I will do, so when I first started posting on TikTok, I was just reposting my Instagrams over to my TikTok. But what I found works the best is I will actually make what I'm going to post on Instagram in TikTok. I'll post it to TikTok. I'll download it. A little tip, if you have an iPhone, download it as a live video. You can cut off the logo. It's really tiny at the bottom. And then you can re-upload it on Instagram with the audio from your TikTok. So that's usually what I do is I'll make it on TikTok. I'll repost it on Instagram. And then sometimes, since short videos are doing so well on Instagram, sometimes I'll just post those little short, tiny videos on Instagram, but I usually will always post the longer videos I make on TikTok on Instagram. But then I will repurpose my carousels to TikTok because TikTok is also really liking photos right now. So those are doing really well. Just repurposing my carousels. And let's say you have a call to action at the end of your Instagram carousel. I'll just go in Canva. And instead of I don't know, DM me the word blank because they can't DM you on TikTok, I'll say, go follow me on Instagram or comment this or go to the link in my Instagram bio. Well, that's when I didn't have a link in my TikTok, but I'll just change the last call to action. But it's really, really easy. It really doesn't take much time at all. I don't have I know some people are you need to post 3 times a day on TikTok. I don't necessarily post 3 times a day on TikTok. I really just kind of repurpose. If I post on TikTok, I'll post it on Instagram. If I post on Instagram, I'll post it on TikTok. And I usually always cut off the logos because I found that if you use the logo, they don't shoot it out to as many people.
Yeah, that's a pro tip. That's what I do too. I just download it. I do mine off Instagram and then I'll just, in the camera roll, I'll cut off the little, that's a perfect tip. I love that so much. And I'm so happy you're talking about this because I just had a one-on-one client come from, I was the other day, I was like, I don't, my TikTok's not doing that well. What am I doing? And then I was focusing on Instagram and I was like, wait, let me start TikTok again. She was like, I was like, how'd you find me? She was like, from TikTok. I have 400 followers, you guys. You have to get on there. Baylee is completely right. I love that so freaking much. You have been unbelievable. I'm just so, so happy and proud to call you my client. You are just amazing. And I love you and you're the best. I would love for you to plug yourself, tell us where you can find you, what are you working on? I would love my clients, my audience to, work with you and follow your journey.
Oh, thank you so much. So I have quite a few handles for my businesses, but to keep it simple. So my coaching business is Biz by Baylee on Instagram and on TikTok. And just to attest with what you said with only having 400 followers on your TikTok and getting a client, I have on my business TikTok like 180 something, and I've gotten a client from that. So just to erase people's limiting beliefs with that. But Biz by Baylee on TikTok and Instagram. And then if you are wanting to come into my health coaching world, Strong by Baylee on TikTok, Strong by Baylee Allison on Instagram. I also have a podcast linked in my bios on my Instagram called It's Baylee that talks on both health and business. Since I have 1,100,000 offerings and things going on, if you feel aligned to work with me business-wise, you can just message me the word coaching. Same thing on the health business side of things to keep things simple.
Yes. And for those of you who can't see, she has the clearest skin in the whole world. Clearly, she knows what she's doing on both her coaching and her health page. You are incredible. I love you so much. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. Also, everyone work with Sam.
Okay.